Hey guys, this is Deni as always. I'm sure many of you have a certain game that you've played for over 1000 hours. For me it's Apex Legends, for some it's Dota or Counter-Strike. Now I'm going to show you a whole bunch more games that you can easily play over 1000 hours. Click on the like, click on subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and let's go. Do you miss adrenaline and dynamic gameplay? The perfect place to get it all? Good old Crossout. Tense battles, dozens of different vehicles, and hundreds of parts for their customization are waiting for you. You can make a powerful, bulletproof tank and destroy your enemies just by the look of it. Or make something smaller, but fast, and get in the back of unsuspecting enemies. In any case, Crossout is the best place to show everyone who is a real pro. Download the game at the link in the description. Let's start with the game of one developer, which simply tore the internet. It is Lethal Company, and its name is corresponding. The situation is as follows. You, together with your friends, are hired by a certain company to walk around the world, collect iron and various trash. For this you have deadlines, 3 days. Within that time frame, you have to meet a quota. Well, today require 150 garbage, you bring in 3 days already 300 and so on. At the same time, you choose the planets on which you will fly, and you choose what equipment for the money will buy. Well, and then go to the planets where you are waiting for a lot of funny moments, when death creeps up unexpectedly, when a blind dog will eat you, when bees will bite your ass, and so on. I wouldn't say that right now the game has a lot of content, but for a couple of 100 hours it will drag on without any problems, and taking into account that the developer is finishing his creation days and nights right now, the content will be even more. Overall, it's very cool. Naraka, surprisingly, can suck it too. Alright, though, there's nothing to be surprised about. It's firstly a battle royal, secondly, it's the only one in melee combat, and thirdly, it's still stably supported by the developers. Plus, it looks amazing and you can play for free. Basically, it's a whole set of maximally successful game, and she constantly proves it to everyone. The only thing that may scare you off is the presence of a large number of Chinese who will gladly blow your ass off in the game. But this is a small thing, until you learn to play it yourself. Although only on this, you will need hundreds of 3 to 4 hours. In general, it can drag on. I can say the same about Red Dead Redemption 2. It did not drag me for such a large amount of time. I went through the company and safely forgot about it, not even going into multiplayer. And it is played by a lot of people and for quite a long time, plus the developers pretend that they are working on the game, though not very fast. But the coolest thing why it's addictive is that there are so many secret mechanics and subtleties in the game that they are still being found. NPCs behave differently every time. The world looks really alive. In general, you are immersed here, and this atmosphere can drag you for hundreds of hours. Do you need to tell something about The Sims? This game knows how to drag on not just for hundreds of hours, and not even for 1,000, but much more. I personally enough truth to create a character, write a couple of codes for money, and build a house. Further, to play became not interesting, but most people play there in it for generations, and it's fun, especially if you have risen from your knees, and at the same time no codes for money did not enter. But that's totally for gamers as far as I'm concerned. If you want something more dynamic than creating families, building a house and all this, go to Bit Remastered, which successfully exists and still pleases tens of thousands of players. If anyone suddenly does not know, it is a shooter with huge dynamics, which is purely copied from Battlefield, only in low polygonal graphics and made all conveniently, with pumping and progression. In general, in a word, the developers have made a cool game. Play which hours one pleasure. Let's go back in time and remember about such a wonderful game as DayZ, the developers of which it was finally released after 7 long years of early access. I actually played it solo for 100 hours back in the day, but I have a lot of friends who still play it. It's changed a lot in all the time it's been in development and has become much more of a game, and therefore did not lose especially players. Therefore, immersion in the atmosphere of the zombie apocalypse, where around for many kilometers of emptiness and met players as a rule far from friendly, still gives inexpressible emotions. I don't know if I should tell you that Elden Ring can be addictive or not, but the fact remains. I myself have played 300 hours, and I am constantly drawn back to start again and come up with some kind of challenge. Go through the game without shields. Go through the game naked. Go through the game with only magic, and so on. Such masochistic tendencies have been around since the first part, but it was really fun, and so Elden is the apogee of that kind of fun. So it is very successful in pulling in a large number of players and does not let go for days on end. Since we talked about DayZ, it is worth mentioning the game that became its progenitor. This is naturally about Arma 3. There is so much content in this game that it is impossible to play everything. In brief, you are waiting for mass battles with vehicles, a large number of weapons, and a strong emphasis on realism. Running across the fields is 90% of gameplay. Of course, you will also shoot, but you will run more. On the whole, it may seem fun, but much more fun is when you go to the roleplay servers. That's when it will be much more interesting, especially if you say that you are new here. This is one of the best survival simulators out there right now. The game is still relevant thanks to its unique world building and crafting. It's got a post-apocalypse and zombies, where you show up in the world and have to survive. Therefore, you will have to build your own fortress, communicate with other players, mountain of crafting, character skill development, and so on. To enumerate what to do here is more expensive, and you will get tired. It is important to note that it now looks quite good, a lot of players, and pulls very strong. And this is a vampire survival game in which you can rise from your grave and go nightmare the inhabitants. Since its release, the developers have added a huge amount of new content. In general, the situation here is as follows. You create a vampire character, quite evil. You get up from your grave and beat rats with a stick. Then you pump up a bit and build yourself a castle. After that, you go to kill the first boss, open new recipes, create some junk, and go kill the second boss. Then again, you get recipes, and go to kill the third, and so on to infinity. But the funny thing is that there are many other players who do the same thing and can interfere with each other. Of course, you can team up with them, but it's better to kill them and take everything out of their castle, so you have a lot of loot and get a level. Of course, the subtleties in the game is still a lot, but the essence I think you catch and drag the game really can for a long time. How about playing a fierce random story simulator? That's what RimWorld is all about. First of all, we should say that the graphics here is certainly mediocre, but the game is not about it. Here, you take under control a small bunch of survivors, land on a random planet, and then begins to happen bacchanalia. Characters live their own lives, and you can't win or lose here at all. Here, we still have to choose the artificial intelligence of the storyteller who analyzes the situation and decides which event, in his opinion, will create the coolest story. For example, you can be eaten by wolves, your characters can kill themselves, fall in love with each other, make a love triangle, then poison each other, and collectively die. And there are really 1,000 such stories here, so to see them all, you will need a lot of time. How about playing something similar to Rise, only bigger and in a slightly different setting? The front is just that. Here you are waiting for a powerful survival, where you, as an ordinary soldier, together with your friends, must build your base, throw traps and automatic turrets there, and then, or defend and protect your base, or score a dick and go to break into someone else's similar buildings of other players. In general, everything here is like in Rust, only the map feels bigger and the buildings are more global. That's why it looks interesting. In general, probably, you could tell about No Man's Sky because it is also addictive, but this time, a couple of words about Astroneer because this game is similar. It's the 25th century, and we have to explore the galaxy. So our quest is to fly back and forth, build bases, construct vehicles for exploration, and rebuild planets to our liking. Dig tunnels, build megaliths, and other structures. The game features a huge solar system of 7 planets, each with unique landscapes and hazards. There is a lot of content and adventures here, so it can take you a long time. And this is Don't Starve, and I think there is no need to say too much. It's essentially an endless game with random generation, which even 1,000 hours will not be enough to learn. Mainly because in order to get to some tricky survival days, you need to know the game thoroughly and what to do in this or that situation. Plus, know what you'll have to look forward to and on what days. When to start preparing for the change of season. When to build walls or gather food and so on. To study all this, you will take a lot of time. Plus, no one is immune to failures. You can always die quickly here. Well, about MMORPG, I think it is necessary to make a separate video because each of them is designed for the fact that you will spend more than 1,000 hours there. In this particular case, World of Warcraft, but in general you can frame any MMORPG here, be it Black Desert, Perfect World something and so on. Regarding World of Warcraft, it's still cool. Casual of course, not as hardcore and brutal as it used to be, but it's still not bad. Well, and every year major updates are released, so in general it is interesting to follow the events happening in the game. Well, we are done for today. I hope you found something interesting for yourself and therefore clicked on the like and subscribe too. Well, with you was as always Deni, and have a nice day.